Your dream life starts with principles of success. Principles of success are what has helped me from making $55,000 a year as an intern to now owning my own company that has generated over $500 million of revenue in the last 5 years. They're how I found my dream husband, built an amazing community of people I love, and wake up feeling confident and energized almost every single day. And I've refined all of these principles that help me get to where I am now down to 7 key principles. So these are the 7 key principles to building your dream life. The first principle to building your dream life is honesty. You better be willing to be really fucking honest with yourself about what you actually want. This might seem silly or unnecessary or what everybody else does, but everybody does it because it actually works. Sit down and make a vision board. The way that I've done this in the past is I will go to the store, buy a bunch of magazines with things that I'm interested in. There's business, there's fashion magazines, there's beauty magazines, there's investment magazines, all the things that I like, and start pulling out pages that have quotes, that have pictures and imagery of things that you want to create. You're gonna pull out all these pages and you're going to stick these things on a vision board. This vision board is what you should be looking at to understand who you're going to be in the future. My vision board from 6 years ago had a picture of these 2 girls on it, and they looked so happy. And I remember thinking, man, I cannot wait until I have supportive friends who I'm able to travel with and do really fun things with and buy nice things for, because at the time I didn't have that. I also put on this vision board this really cool picture of a clock with a woman standing on it. So the clock was like shattering. And at the time, this symbolized to me the fact that I was in control of time, because my husband and I have an age gap relationship. He is a few years older than I am, and I would have so much anxiety almost every single day about losing him and what it would be like when he wasn't around any longer. And it really was crippling for me. Whereas I imagine this woman, if it was me stepping on this clock, I have control of time. I'm not worried about time. I'm able to enjoy the time that I have with him. I'm able to create the life that I want with him. And time doesn't dictate what I do. I get to dictate what I do with my time. I also had this picture of money, and the money was like sparkly and had all this glitter all over it. And I remember thinking, man, what would it be like in the future to not actually worry about money? This vision board allowed me to just play pretend of what my dream life would actually look like. And I put all of these images and all of these pictures together in one single place so that I could look at it constantly to remember where I was going, and honestly take a look at where I'm at today and recognize where the gap is. Because if you're not honest with yourself and you don't really think that you have gaps, then you're not gonna put in the work that's required to get there. So this vision board is absolutely step 1 to getting yourself to actually create the dream life that you want. If you don't know what the dream life is, how are you ever gonna create it? The second principle is constant visualization. I have my vision board everywhere. It is in my office, it is at my house, it is in my bathroom. I have different versions of it on my home screen. This is definitely a hack. Your ability to see your future self so that today you can act as if is the hack. One of my favorite sayings is be, do, have. There's an order there. First, you be the thing, then you do what is required to have what you want. This is why people who win the lottery really struggle, because they didn't have to become the person to create wealth. They didn't have to do the actions in order to create the wealth. They just have the wealth. So all of a sudden they don't know how to spend the money. They get all of this guilt and start paying for random things, and all of a sudden they're broke. Or people who are born into money, they struggle with this too if they aren't required to be the thing and then do what is required to have the money. Insecurity just creeps in. I will never forget when Brand and I first decided that we wanted to have a private jet. This was when we were traveling across the country multiple times a week in order to grow our business. We were sick and tired of traveling. We didn't want to do it any longer because it was so exhausting. We both decided that we were going to put private jets as our home screens on our phone, and we slapped our company logo on the back of it. And for 5 years, we had the same exact lock screen so that every single time we pick up our phone, which happens to be multiple times at any given hour, we were reminded of what we were going to build, what we were going to create, that we wanted to have this. So we had to do what was required today in order to have this. Fast forward today, our jet is even cooler than the one that was on our lock screen. It is sick. It has this 10X on it. And it all happened because at some point 6 years ago, we said, this is what we want, what is required in order to get there. Now that you know what your dream life looks like, you are ready for the third principle, calculation. You need to do the math on how much your dream life is going to cost you. We need to confront the numbers. Wouldn't you at least want to know what the number is that you would have to make in order to create exactly what you want? Because once you have this number, it is a really simple problem to solve. You just have to go find somebody who makes that amount of money and understand what do they do to make that kind of money so that you too can make that money. So you're going to make a list of all of the things and you're going to figure out exactly how much they cost so that you know how much money you need to make every single month. And it's worth noting that this isn't just about having a nice house and a nice car and a private jet. What can money bring to your life and others around you? I've been able to pay over $100 million in the last 5 years to our team members who are then able to provide for their families. They're able to contribute to charities, all because I had a vision that I wanted to create a business that was going to generate revenue. And in exchange, we were going to pay people to help us fulfill the vision of our organization. And what most people do wrong in this scenario is they set their targets so low. They set their targets to be attainable. The vision isn't big enough and isn't strong enough and compelling enough for them to actually take action. It's like a decent version of what they might want. And so they take half actions and then wonder why they aren't actually getting to where they want to go. Instead of just actually saying, this is where I want to go, this is who I want to be, this is how much money it's going to require. So now I can properly calibrate how much work it's going to take. Principle number 4 is value creation. If you do not make yourself valuable in the marketplace, you will never be successful and actually create your dream life. But what is the valuable set of skills you actually have to acquire in order to get what you want? The fastest way to figure this out is to find out who is making the type of money that you want to make in your vision board. How can you learn from those people? How do you get as close as possible, as close in proximity in physical universe to the people who have what you want so that you can learn what you do not know in order to get there? It's not just about listening to these people, it's actually about implementing what they're telling you to do. It's very easy to just get stuck in this cycle of I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna get all this data, and it almost turns into a form of entertainment. Well, at some point you have to move the inspiration into the doingness so that you try it, you get your teeth kicked in, you get hit a couple times, it hurts, but you go through the process so that you can actually fulfill the cycle. Now, you're not gonna wanna follow people who just stumbled into their success. You don't just want to have the thing. I know most people actually do. It's just like, oh, just give me $1 million and I would be so happy. The reality is you wouldn't actually be very happy. You would be very insecure. So part of the process of being successful is actually having to go through all of these challenges, because then you can tell people, hey, at one point I did not have these things and I wanted to become somebody that I wasn't. These are all of the actions that I took. This is what you can do too in order to attain this. And that is one of the single most fulfilling things that you can do as you build a dream life, is actually be able to impact other people. But you can never do that if you don't first put the work in. This leads to principle number 5, sacrifice. Everybody wants the dream life with the dream job and the dream car and the dream husband, but they aren't actually willing to make the sacrifices required to get there. You see, for me, the dream life did not just happen in the blink of an eye because I started to do something different. After a couple of weeks, all of a sudden these things magically appeared. It was systematically changing, constantly putting myself in a space of challenge and discomfort and showing up differently and questioning why I did something and looking at my failure and just not giving up. So this idea of sacrifice is really sacrificing your comfort. And my recommendation on this is to pick 5 things. 5 things that you are going to make a change on. Every single day, you're going to chip away at those 5 things until those 5 things become your habits. When COVID hit, we were in quarantine and I decided that my 5 things were going to be, I was going to no longer be a night owl, and I was going to go to bed every single night at 9:30 so that I could wake up at 5, and I was going to work out every single day. Third thing was that I was going to train on a new sales topic every day. My 4th thing was a water goal. I wanted to drink 100 ounces of water every single day so that I felt hydrated, I felt replenished. And my 5th and final thing that I decided to do was no longer drink alcohol. I don't know if you remember, but everybody during quarantine was just boozing it up every night. It was wind down Mondays, wind down Tuesdays. Every day became a wind down day. And people were doing this in order to distract themselves. And I was like, no, this is going to be the time where I get forged in my habits and I become a different person when I get out of this, because we are going to get out of this. Daily habits, daily sacrifices allow you to become the person that you're ultimately looking to be and create your dream life. The sixth principle to achieving your dream life is a game changer, and it's selectivity. Ask yourself, who do you want to be friends with? When I asked myself this question, I realized I want to be friends with really freaking cool people. I want to do cool shit with really awesome people who are doing big things in this world. I remember watching Grant and Elena Cardone from afar and thinking, what would it be like to be friends with them? I can only imagine what it would be like. And I even DM'd Elena saying, you do not know me, but one day you will, and you and I will be very close friends. This was long before she ever met me in person. And fast forward today, 6 years later, we actually have an incredible friendship, and it still blows my mind that she is interested in me because I'm still such a fan of her, and I put her on a pedestal, and she is my ultimate mentor in so many different ways. But this is the power of being selective and choosing who you spend time with, because you cannot spend time with the people that you're spending time with today while also in the same breath saying, I want to be hanging out with really cool people. But you're never going to bring them in your world if you don't start saying no to the people who are distracting you in your current environment from becoming the person that you have to be. So you have to start saying, no, we don't got time to hang out any longer. I'm too busy working on myself. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend like this isn't incredibly lonely. It is, for a short period of time. Are you willing to sacrifice being lonely and saying no for a little while? If you are, it is likely that you're actually going to be able to create your dream life. If you aren't, then you might be stuck doing what you're doing right now, which you're not gonna do. That's not gonna be you. The final principle is reflection. Ask yourself this: do the people I want to be friends with want to be friends with me? You see, if they don't want to be friends with you in today's state, that is okay, but it should allow you to understand what would you have to do in order for them to want to become friends with you. Who do you have to become? Because I believe that you can be friends with anybody that you want to be friends with. Most people are actually quite reachable. But when you do get that moment to meet the person that you want to be friends with, how do you impress upon them that you are freaking cool and somebody that they would want to hang out with? So my trick for this is studying my mentors, and I start to understand what they do, where they spend their time, where do they invest themselves, and I start to take interest in those same things. I start to understand the same interests that they have. I start to become somebody who is very fluent in these things, so that when I get the opportunity to meet them, I am raising my chances significantly that they would be interested in me because we're interested in the same things. One of the most scarring experiences that I ever had was being in New York City, and I'd always dreamed of being able to spend time in the Big Apple. And I was at this very schnazzy restaurant where a lot of cool people were, and I was taking it all in. And as I was leaving the restaurant, and I was in the bar, I saw that one of my idols was also in the bar. This happened to be a Real Housewife of New York. I won't share with you which one, but I looked at her across the way and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's right there. And it struck me right then and there that even though she was in my presence, she wouldn't take me seriously. I didn't even take me seriously. I really wanted to be her friend. I really wanted to have a relationship with her. And yet, if I would have talked to her at that moment, she wouldn't take me seriously. And in fact, I did talk to her at that moment, and she very quickly brushed me off. She was actually incredibly rude. But not only was I a fan just trying to say hi and she happened to be rude, the moral of the story is I actually had this moment to be impressive because somebody that I wanted to impress was in front of me, but I wasn't impressive yet because I hadn't done what I needed to do, which for me was starting a business and hiring people and being a great public speaker, all of these things that I've done through building an actual business. That was part of my dream life. Now, if you want to take the first step toward building your dream life, and it happens to include starting a business, you should check out my video, 5 Steps to Starting a Business, to get started.